Hi. In order to have fire, you must have three things. You must have a fuel, you must have oxygen, and you must have a spark, something that ignites it. Social change and revolution and protesting is the same. It requires fuel, oxygen, and a spark. Now, as far as fuel in social change, there's only three things that will get a couch potato up off of his couch and out into the streets protesting. And the first is that if there is a threat to his life or his family's life, that will get him off the couch. The second thing is if there is a threat to his ability to provide for his families, if there's massive unemployment or something that just he cannot provide for his family, he will get off the couch. And third, if there is massive unfairness or injustice to a degree that affects everyone, that will get him off the couch. So that is the fuel for revolution, that is the fuel for social change, for anything that we do. The best example of this, and when I realized this, was the Arab Spring. Now, the Arab Spring started in Libya, and it started with a street vendor who was normally selling his wares on a corner, and he was denied that corner for some reason, didn't pay a bribe or whatever. He lit himself on fire, and that was the spark. The oxygen in that process was social media. That spread on the internet and social media and Facebook like wildfire and let everybody in on it and know it. And then the third thing was there was plenty of fuel there because he was not alone in being abused in this manner and having his livelihood or his life impinged upon by the authorities. And so, pow, you got the Arab Spring, and that spread across the Middle East, and part of Syria was involved with that, and everything else that could be bad was part of that. So that is what you need for revolution. That's what you need for change to actually occur. And for change to actually occur, sometimes it is revolution. I'm not advocating violence, but I'm just merely trying to explain why we have violence and why what we have may or may not work. Now, the next time I saw this situation develop was Occupy Wall Street. The stock market had crashed, people had lost their money, so there was widespread fuel there. You know that there were a lot of people affected. The social media we had, the oxygen was there, and then this collapse of the banks and whatever, that was the trigger, that was the spark that started it. The only problem with Occupy Wall Street is there was not enough fuel. Yes, there was, these people got hurt with their 401ks, but they were hurt with their 401ks while driving their cars and living in their homes. And a lot of people were adversely affected, but there was not the generalized fuel and outrage that had been simmering. And Occupy Wall Street fractionated and died. Now we have our current situation with the racial tensions that are involved here. And the manner that George Floyd died was reprehensible. So there's no doubt about that. And the fact of it being a great spark, there is no doubt about that. And we're all seeking this social change and whatever, but I have seen enough of these efforts over my life that I've seen that they rarely result in any change. And it's always frustrated me on why. And in America, you know, with this Wall Street and, you know, the banks and the money being printed and all of these inequities in the financial zones that occurred, you know, you thought that this should do something, something should happen here. But in the United States, quite simply, there's not enough pain, there's not enough fuel out there to drive change that is permanent, or to drive revolution, which would make permanent change, or any of that. There's not enough. We still all have our TV sets and we have our cars, and although some of us get mistreated by the police, and maybe some more so than others and whatever, it is not a lawlessness that is spread far enough, fast enough, and asymmetrically affecting so many of us in one way that the fuel was sufficient. And I would like to see change in the police and how they manage things. There are two sides to all stories, and this one too. But you would like to, you know, we do have body cameras because of Rodney King and these other acts that have occurred in the past. So there is gradual change being made in that, and how the police are accountable. So, and there will be even more change involved after the George Floyd case here, with things being rectified, where if you don't have your police cam on, you get fired, you know, or that there's some teeth put into the rules. But as far as there being this, I believe this movement, this spark, is just that. I don't think it's going to be a continuous thing, and it will die out, like Rodney King died out, like Watts died out. I've seen a lot of these things, and they die out. And the reason they do, and the frustration occurred with it, the reason we don't have the change, the reason we have corrupt government, the reason we don't go into Congress and clean out that viper's nest of self-serving, greedy politicians, is that we don't have enough deprivation and pain on our side of the equation for everybody to get off of their couch and go out and change it. So we're going to get briefly off of our couch here for a while, and we'll affect some small changes. But for this revolution to occur and this massive change in difference, we simply in America don't have enough fuel to fire up and make that a permanent type change. If we ever get enough fuel, it's going to be a sad day, because that's going to mean that there are so many people either being abused with their livelihood, or have their lives threatened, or their horrible injustice, that it's going to be anarchy before we have that, and we don't need that. But I've observed this over my life. I've wondered about why some things progress and some don't. And this is the best analog that I could come up with, is that we have to have fuel to drive this change. And for right now, we don't have that fuel. So I believe we'll have these protests. They are correct to have. They will peter out, and then for most people it will appear that we go back to the same old, same old. But there will be a little micro step of improvement done with this. And as much as we hate seeing somebody, you know, die in the manner that George Floyd died, I'm afraid that, you know, we are probably have not seen the last of those type of things. Just like our economical problems, we have not seen the last of those. They will come again. But I've just made those observations over my life and about what it takes to make real change. And it takes revolution, and revolution takes fuel. So just something to think about. But for now, we'll just do what we do, and try to make the best out of the situation we have, and try to keep the flames not so big.